One of the most common questions friends and family often ask me is, how do I become more comfortable with conflict? You know, if the slightest sense of conflict has you running for the hills, or if the idea of conflict gives you jitters in your stomach and makes you stay up at night, well then this video is for you. Because today I'm going to introduce this important idea of conflict resilience. And I'm going to share with you some key tips about how you can sit more comfortably with conflict, have less tension in your life and in your relationships, and frankly, just be more successful at work and in your home. So let me start with this first fallacy, and it's one that many people believe. And it's this idea that conflict is somehow bad, that it's a sign that something has gone wrong, that either you or the other person has failed, or that the organization isn't running well. And all of that is just untrue, because whenever you bring two people into a relationship, whether it's at work or it's at home, and those two people have opinions and views, then there is going to be differences. And when there are differences, there is conflict. And so conflict is absolutely normal. It's as much a part of life as the air we breathe and the water we drink and the food we eat. And so the issue is not whether there is conflict. The issue is, what is our ability to handle that conflict? Do we have the skill? Do we have the resilience? Do we have the capacity to sit with it? Or do we somehow mark it as wrong, evil, bad, or failing? So if you could persuade yourself that conflict is normal and actually good, this is the first step to sitting with it and dealing with it well. The second key here is that in that moment, when you are feeling the differences, when you're feeling some anxiety, many of us have an urge to either flee, right, to run for the hills, or to fight. And what I want to say is that in that moment, you need to fight the urge to either flee or to fight. And in fact, this is an internal negotiation with yourself. An internal negotiation to see this moment of conflict with a colleague or a friend or a family member as an opportunity to learn more, to actually be creative, to actually work within that difference and to learn. And this leads to the third really important point. Because what I've noticed is that for many people in that moment, when they're feeling the tension and the conflict, they panic, they catastrophize. And so my tip here is to actually avoid catastrophizing. In other words, just expand the time frame. Yes, there's a little bit of tension right now. So like all things, if you expand the time frame, you'll see that the conflict itself is not a disaster. And so I want to invite you to avoid the feeling that you have to resolve the conflict, that you need to make it go away. In fact, differences are really a part of life. If you're a Democrat, you will probably never see eye to eye with a Republican. That doesn't mean you need to destroy each other, and that doesn't mean you need to avoid each other. Sometimes just expanding the time frame a bit and realizing that you'll make it through this hour, or you'll make it through this day, or you'll make it through this week can really help. So my fourth piece of advice is, in the moment that you're feeling the sense of conflict or tension, normalize it. Don't make it seem like it's abnormal or strange or that something has gone off the rails. So this can look like something like saying, hey, I'm really glad we found some areas where we don't see eye to eye. I know that could feel awkward, but for me, it's just a sign that we're being more real with each other. And that's kind of exciting for me. It's a sign of a new opportunity in our relationship. So I'm going to share an example with you of how I did this during COVID. So one of my friends was somebody who was very resistant to taking the COVID vaccine. And in fact, many of our other friends actually really started to isolate this person. They said things like, I just don't think I could talk to him anymore. Or like, I don't know what planet he's coming from. Or yeah, like he's just completely lost me. And I just decided that this was actually not okay. So in fact, at a moment when I was having a party, this was after the vaccine had come out, but still at a time of pretty high transmission. And so I had decided that I wanted to have this event, but that I was going to require people to have gotten the vaccine in order to come to my house and also to take a test. And I knew that this was going to be a problem for this friend. And so I actually called the friend up and I said, hey, this is an awkward conversation. But what I realize is, I know that you are, I don't know if it's vaccine hesitant or vaccine resistant, but that we don't have the same view on this vaccine. And I realize, I really haven't asked you why. And I'd love to just have a conversation with you about it. And I have a sense we're probably not going to agree here, but it would just be helpful to me. And so we had this actually really interesting conversation. Nothing he said persuaded me. In fact, nothing I said persuaded him. At the end of our conversation, I told him that I was having this event and that I really regretted that I couldn't invite him, but that I was just grateful for the chance to talk to him. And I felt like it was a good conversation. But what was really interesting is about a week later, I got an email from him. And it was an email full of appreciation. This may seem surprising to you, but for me, it was actually not that surprising. Because even though I didn't invite him, one of the things he said was, literally nobody has asked me or engaged me in a conversation on the pro-vaccine side except for you. And so for me, it was an opportunity to learn. It was an opportunity to deepen our relationship. And in this case, actually preserve it. So this leads to my fifth point, which is that when we decide to engage conflict, it's really helpful to frame it not as a problem, but as a shared opportunity to learn, to perhaps come up with creative solutions, or if we can't do this, to have a really good conversation about how do we just best handle our differences on this. And so this leads to my last point. If you're really interested in building skills of conflict resilience, after the sense of conflict has subsided, you're not done yet. You actually need to go back and reflect on the experience. And some of the questions I would ask you to ask yourself are you still intact? I'm guessing the answer will be yes. What did you learn? I'm guessing the answer will be something. What was hard about it? There'll probably be a list of things there as well. But just the act of reviewing and reminding yourself that you made it through is going to improve your ability to work through the next conflict and the next conflict and the next conflict. You will be stronger, you will be more resilient. And that is the goal here. Because I think one of the challenges that we have currently in our society is that many of us have a really low conflict resilience. We seem to hate conflict. And so what we do is we curate cocoons of comfort where we only hang out with people who agree with us, and we avoid difficult conversations, and we avoid difficult topics. And that just actually doesn't work in a broad, big, pluralistic society. So I would say that just as we think of things like emotional intelligence as a really important skill, or listening as a really important skill, or public speaking as a really important skill, conflict resilience is one of the most key leadership skills you could have. So if you want to build your skills of conflict resilience, remember first, conflict itself is not bad. It's a normal part of all life and all relationships. Second, when you're feeling that tension and anxiety around differences, fight the urge to flee or to fight. Negotiate with yourself to see this as an opportunity to learn and be more creative. Third, avoid the kind of catastrophizing in the moment that makes you feel like if you don't resolve this, the entire relationship is ruined. Fourth, in the moment you're feeling the conflict, normalize the disagreement. Literally say, wow, our differences here are challenging, but also kind of exciting. Fifth, frame the conflict as a shared opportunity to learn and to grow. And sixth, use the opportunity afterwards as a chance to reflect on your own ability to sit with and live through the conflict situation. So if you are interested in learning more about how to be more effective in conflict, keep watching this next video, which is how to mediate a conflict between two employees. Thanks for watching. I'm Bob Bordone. Okay, you know you want to learn how to mediate. Click, click, click.